Though I have a 10 pages prepared to deliver here this morning, I would want to ask permission from the chair to identify some highlights within my own presentation, and also for wanting to save my own voice for a little later so I can speak effectively at other things. I would want to identify some of the areas that I want to highlight. But first of all, I want to commend the Ministry of Finance for organizing this forum under the theme, Green Economy, Pathway Towards a Sustainable Future. I think it is quite fitting and quite timing in taking into consideration the challenges that the whole world is confronted with at this particular moment in time, and the Caribbean, and to some extent, St. Kitts. I would want to say also that though we are confronted with this challenge at this particular moment, St. Kitts has always been a country that takes on challenges. We have always had a government that is willing to take on challenges. I recall a couple of years ago under another ministry, when I held another ministry, when HIV/AIDS was then the buzzword at that time, when HIV/AIDS was then a death sentence, and the whole Caribbean was second to sub-Saharan Africa in terms of the incidence of HIV/AIDS. And we, as a Minister of Health and being the Senior Minister of Health at that time, we wondered how we would be able to deal with this problem of HIV/AIDS, taking into consideration the cost of the medication at that time. The pharmaceutical companies were at that time also very strong in their position that you must not produce any generic drugs. You must buy their drugs from Glaxo, from the companies at that time. And the Caribbean, under my leadership, the Minister of Health went to Geneva and spoke to the drug companies and said to them that they must reduce the cost of drugs for patients with HIV/AIDS. And we were successful. We had a reduction in the cost of drugs for patients with HIV/AIDS. And no longer patients can consider HIV/AIDS as a death sentence, because at that time it was a challenge. And we took on that challenge as a government and as a people for the people of the region. So as we are confronted at this moment with the challenge of the green economy, the cost of electricity, the cost of oil prices, I am convinced that within my own ministry and within the government, we will find means and solutions to solve those problems. Taking that into consideration, early o'clock, we recognize that the only way that we'll be able to solve that problem is to put in place a roadmap. And the roadmap entailed the presentation of an energy policy to the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And through the kind assistance of the OAS, the CARICOM Secretariat, the Nevis Island Administration, other agencies within government, we were able to organize over a period of time a series of consultations, both in St. Kitts and in Nevis, for the formulation of a national, I must say. Here's where we saw St. Kitts and Nevis working together for the formulation of a national energy policy. And out of that policy, we were able to devise some action plans in which we were able to move forward. That policy was submitted to Cabinet in November of 2011, approved by Cabinet, and later tabled in Parliament as a policy that will guide the Ministry of Health, the government, the private sector, and the civil society with respect to energy policy in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I would want to take this opportunity to thank all those persons who would have participated in bringing us thus far where we are at this present moment in the formulation of such a policy. The policy basically, and I want to just quote one section of the policy, so that we can have a clear indication exactly what this policy intends to do, where it intends to take us at the end of the day. And I quote, "The Federation of St. Kitts-Nevis wants to become the smallest green nation in the Western Hemisphere, where the government's vision for the energy sector is to become a twin island nation with a sustainable energy sector where reliable, renewable, clean and affordable energy services are provided to all its citizens." That's basically the foundation on which the ministry and all civil society and NGOs operating in terms of moving towards a green economy. It's out of that policy, most recently, the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy, were able to identify specific concessions, duty-free concessions, import concessions on renewable equipment, renewable supplies for persons who would want to get involved in the aspects of renewable energy. And we have seen a tremendous enthusiasm amongst the citizens of the Federation since this policy has been outlined with respect to the duty-free concessions. We have seen companies coming forward, such as TDC, group of companies, SL Horsford Company, coming forward and establishing solar panels on their rooftops as a means of generating a fraction of their own energy to power their enterprises. We have seen local home owners applying to the ministry in order to generate their own electricity supply to their homes as a means of reducing their own electricity bills. And I would want to commend them for actually buying into the government's policy as a means of ensuring that we are able to produce, they are able to produce a cheaper and a more cleaner form of energy supply for their respective facilities and their homes. But the challenge, as it may, is that as a small country, we are not any producers of fossil fuel. And I don't know if we'll be able somewhere along the line to find oil somewhere that will be able to help us to take us through this period. But as it is, we will have to continue the roadmap on renewable energy, because it is estimated that in the next 20 years, the demand for oil will rise about 25%. And that is because of those developing countries. For example, India, one of the countries that are now coming on the market, coming highly developed. Areas that were undeveloped are now coming more developed. Industries are now developing in India, and they need a larger consumption of oil, or fossil oil. We have a similar situation in China, where areas that were underdeveloped are now coming more developed. Areas that they have now invested in other areas of manufacturing that needs a larger portion of fossil fuel also, and they are consuming more fossil fuel. Similar situation do we have also in Brazil, new upcoming developing country. Areas that were left undeveloped for some period of time are now coming more developed, and the need, and there's an urge for a greater supply of energy, and all these factors are having an impact on the global price of oil. But that is not only the only factor. We have the factor with respect to anything that occurs in the Middle East. Somebody speaks too loud, somebody talks too loud, there's a threat, or there's a threat of nuclear war or production of nuclear appliances, prices go up. We in our small country basically don't have any control over the price of fossil fuel. And that is why it is imperative that we go down the route of renewable energy as a means of guaranteeing our energy security in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And in light of that, we have identified a matrix within the ministry, a matrix that includes wind, solar, geothermal, and waste to energy as a means of propelling us into the sector of renewable energy. We have been quite successful in some areas. We have had negotiations going on with North Star, an American company, for the construction of a 5 megawatt wind farm in the Bellevue area. We hope that we'll be able to conclude those negotiations very shortly and have the construction of that 5 megawatt wind farm. We have been even more successful in Nevis, where we saw the construction of a 2 megawatt solar wind farm, in Nevis, that have been assisting the residents there in Nevis in their own with cost reduction in electricity. We have seen within the public sector the installation of solar lights now illuminating areas from all the way from Sandy Point all the way down to St. Paul's, including the RLB Park there in St. Paul's, that we have now been powered by solar lamps, solar lights. On the Kim Collins Highway to the area, we have seen LED lights being established that assisted in the overall reduction in the cost of government's cost for street lights. Because with the new arrangement with Skelec, government now has to carry its own bill, pays its bill for electricity, all the buildings that we operate, all the street lights, we do have to pay a cost for that. So when you hear residents call and they'll call my PS and say, I need a street light at the back of my yard, I need one at the front of my yard, all that includes a cost. So we'll have to manage those demands to ensure that we're able to cope with that challenge. We have also seen the construction of a 1 megawatt solar farm at the RLB International Airport. That solar farm will be able to generate and power enough electricity for the airport and to be able to offset SCASPA's bill. That is a tremendous assistance to SCASPA. Just yesterday, I read in a Boston newspaper that they highlighted the RLB International Airport being powered by solar, and I think those are good signs of where the Federation is moving ahead into ensuring that we are going on the right path. We want to also say that very shortly, as part of the government's program, not only to assist in the public sector, but to assist private homeowners, we'll be launching a rooftop project that will install on 300 households solar panels that will generate 2.5 kilowatts of energy that will be able to supply enough electricity to those homeowners on a monthly basis. And we will have in place a net metering system where those bills will be offset against what you consume from the Skelec on a monthly basis, basically, that we will be looking at. And we think that will go a long way in assisting those 300 homeowners. That is basically a pilot project, because part of the international standards is that renewable energy will only be a third of your peak that is actually being generated. Our peak in sink is that is produced on a daily basis at the power station is approximately 24 megawatts. That is when we will consume our maximum. But we have a capacity to generate at least 40 megawatts. But our peak is about 24. It therefore means within our context, in terms of renewable energy, we'll be able to install in the initial phase 8 megawatts of renewable energy before we are able to do a sustained and a comprehensive analysis of the grid to make sure that the grid will remain stable if we would want to move beyond the 8 megawatts. So with that installation of those 300 homeowners will see some benefit to those homeowners. But I want to say that the fundamental thing that we need to look at is conservation. Because through it all, whether we have renewable energy and you continue to use the energy and to do things that will not assist in the reduction of your own consumption, will not be able to assist us. The days when we'll be able to have on the lights in our rooms all day, those days should be over. The days when we'll be able to leave on the air conditioner and go to work, or leave it, or open our doors and just leave it like that running, those days should be over. That is a cost. We have to make sure that the hotels, the ones that are under construction, we put in place special devices. Now you go to a hotel, when you leave the hotel, you take out, you put in your card, the lights come on. When you leave in, you take out the card, and the lights is off. The air condition operates the same way. And we would want to see that type of change, that type of mindset happening within the Federation as a means of helping in the forms of conservation of energy. Because it's not infinite, it's a cost. And if we can reduce the overall cost of energy, we'll be definitely going down the route of the green economy. In this green economy, it must not be only be seen as the reduction in the cost of electricity, the cost of our bills, but we must be able to create new jobs within that new environment. Otherwise, we would have lost part of the objective in terms of moving forward. And we have seen thus far the creation of new jobs in the arena. Within the construction of the 1 megawatt solar farm at the airport, we have seen new technicians who are able to install solar panels coming forward as part of the green economy. With the coming of the manufacturing plant at the St. Paul industrial site, Speed Tech company coming out of Taiwan, we have seen a new cadre of young men and young women who are able to produce solar panels, not only for the consumption here in St. Kitts, but also for exportation. That is where we would want to be in the years to come as we continue to grow that green economy and provide new opportunities, new jobs for all the citizens of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. As part of the fundamental equation to that, the utilities company through it must be able to transform themselves to be able to facilitate that movement into the green economy. We are fortunate in St. Kitts that though it's a private company, Skelec is still owned and operates, still owned by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. In some islands of the OECS, most of these companies are privately owned. And so government might have a policy in place, but the company might have a different policy in place. And there's always a fight between the utilities company and the government with respect to the policies with respect to renewable energy. We are fortunate in St. Kitts thus far that the company is still owned, though it's a private company, it's 100% owned by the government and people of St. Kitts. And they have been buying into the whole policy of renewable energy. They have been able to transform themselves and trying to transform themselves as we move forward in this green economy. First of all, we need to create some sense of transparency within Skelec. The criticisms about your bills, whether you are able to understand what the bill is saying. We have just installed a new billing system that will come live in another month or so, where people will be able to interact in a much more friendly way with that bill to see exactly what the bill is saying. How much you are consuming, what is your consuming, what is the rate, what is the payment plan. And that is part of the whole transformation of Skelec. But we have taken it a little further than that. We have taken it in the form of the whole modernization of the operation of Skelec. Just about within the last month, Skelec has signed 2 contracts. The first one will see the implementation and introduction of smart meters. That is a project that will last for another 2 years. Smart meters will provide us with the opportunity to monitor our own bills on a daily basis, to monitor our appliances, to see exactly which appliances are consuming what amount of energy. It will also give us the opportunity to pay as you go. Just as you have your cellular phone now with Digicel and your cellular phone from cable, you have prepaid and you have postpaid. Those smart meters will be able to provide us with that opportunity. You might be able to say, I only need $100 worth of current today. So you go and you pay $100 based on your meter and you get $100. And you'll be able to monitor that consumption of your electricity on a daily basis. It also provides the opportunity to have an interconnection for those persons who will be getting those rooftop appliances, the solar panels on their homes, to have that interconnection so you'll be able to have the net metering being worked out in a seamless way as we move forward with the renewable energy. The other area that Skellig has signed that contract with is to implement a SCADA system, which is basically a GPRS system, where they'll be able to monitor in a much seamless way and a quicker way in terms of outages, to see where they're having their commercial losses, to see where people are stealing current, because we have instances of people stealing current in the Federation. So once that system is in place, the smart meters and the SCADA system will be able to reduce improve on the efficiency. We'll see a reduction in terms of the commercial losses taking place within Skellig, and at the same time assisting in the overall reduction in your own electricity bills. So we expect that Skellig will transform as a means of assisting the whole movement towards our green economy as we go forward. I want to say that the ministry is totally in support of the green economy. And as my colleague before said we also give it with the green light. But I don't want us to look at the green economy as solely the issue of fossil fuel. An integral part of that is our water supply. A large portion of our water is from groundwater. It therefore means, because it's from groundwater, we need electricity to power our water. And we have to begin to look at how water plays an integral part in the green economy. Because we have sometimes developed the attitude and the mindset that it is infinite, that water is just there and we can just use it and it will always come and replace itself and it will always be there when we turn on the tap for us to have it. But it is said that the next set of world wars will be fought over water because of how scarce and the climate changes that we are experiencing. We have seen it. Early this year, we had a serious drought. Areas we had complained of no water, shortages of water for some period of time. And we have to begin as a country, as a federation, to look at our own habits in terms of how we use the water supply. I give a classical example. In Antigua, with a population of almost 120,000, a population here in St. Kitts is about 50,000. And we use 3 times as much as water in St. Kitts than the people in Antigua use for our population. Because, for example, Antigua has grown accustomed to be a country without water, where they have to put in the desalination plants. And because of that, their habits had to be changed to facilitate that type of thing. And we have to begin as a country to begin to look to see whether we need to change our habits as a means to make sure that the green economy will continue to be a thing with the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to close. I didn't intend to speak that long, but I want to close by saying that through it all, it cannot happen by itself. We need the human capital. The human capital is important as a means of powering the green economy. There are vast amount of opportunities in this green economy for our young people. And that is why I'm glad to see yesterday, members from the CFB, and today again we have a representative from the CFB who is here this morning. We have to unleash our young people, to provide the opportunities for our young people, to be innovative, to come up with new ideas to assist us in building this new economy, which is the green economy. And here's where the institutions, our learning institutions, will have to play a critical role in taking us forward as we move towards that green economy. So I'm pleased to see the head of the college here this morning, because they will have to play a critical role as we move this green economy forward. I want to close by wishing and thanking the Ministry of Finance once again for organizing this activity under the theme, A Green Economy. Thank you very much.